This image was taken on March 4th, 2020. And in it, we can see that 3 medical professionals are using CRISPR on the human body for the first time in its history. They used it to repair the CAS290 gene, which is the gene responsible for your vision, and if you do have a mutation in it, it can also cause blindness. Blindness for this individual they were saved of the risk of blindness because their CAS9 was fixed, and because of CRISPR. But this luxury isn't available to everyone, as many people suffer of the mutations in their CAS9, which cause them blindness. But before we get more into this revolutionary technology, what is CRISPR? CRISPR, or clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats, is a gene editing technology which can be used to modify and create genes, and it is both the fastest and most efficient method of gene editing. Good morning, my name is Ibrahim Afzal, and today I'll be discussing the morality behind CRISPR. The question that I'll be focusing on is, to what extent is the use of CRISPR morally correct for those suffering from severe disabilities or diseases? And the position that I'll be taking on this is that the use of CRISPR is morally correct to the extent to strictly curing the disease or disability. And before we get into the morality of it, first we need to know that what opportunities come along with CRISPR. And in this diagram, you can see that CRISPR, for all ages and genders, it can help in cancer treatment, lung diseases, brain diseases, and all of the ones listed here, which can be a huge help for many people, as these are heavy reasons of death for people. And if it's curable with CRISPR, then they should be obligated to it. And in this image, we can specifically see it tackling Alzheimer's disease. And what CRISPR does in this case is it targets the plaque in brain genes. And seen here, it cuts out the DNA strand of the plaque and it replaces a new healthy one, which then saves the person of any risk of having Alzheimer's, which can also lead to saving their life, because it is a heavy reason of death for many people. And another thing that CRISPR helps in is a lot with cancer, because it's seen many breakthroughs with CRISPR, because they help in fighting against the tumor cells, as seen with animal testing. And specifically what CRISPR does is that it uses CAR T cells, which tackle the tumor cell, but more specifically the antigen of the tumor cell, and it destroys it, which then causes the tumor cell to be destroyed. Now we can discuss the morality of CRISPR, now that we know what it allows for. And in this quote from Moral Courage and Intelligent Disobedience by Ted Thomas, it says, "Bravery in battle is needed, but so is the courage to stand up for what is right and what is immoral, unethical, or illegal." Which, if we apply that to CRISPR, we can see that society must stand up in this battle and have the courage to fight for what we know is right, which is saving the lives of many people. And another example would be Confrontation on the Bridge by Jacob Lawrence, which shows that the African Americans are protesting for their rights, which they know they're morally obligated to. Although there is an opposition, the dog, they still know that they are set to their rights. And now the moral limitations of CRISPR, because although CRISPR is great and it does help in many places, it's also important to look at the cons of CRISPR and where we should limit ourselves to. And first, the gene therapy. First, a quote from CRISPR Gene Therapy, a critical review of ethical concerns and a proposal for public decision-making, from Dr. Lang of Princeton University. He says that some type of intervention is morally wrong because it amounts to playing God is unnatural or is an expression of a wrongful vision of existence, which can show that using CRISPR, you can alter a person's personality or identity, which is unnatural, and it can be seen as playing God, which through this image we see that humans are controlling and puppeting, basically, the DNA. And another concern is designer babies, which are basically when you alter the genes and engineer them into kids, babies more specifically, and you change them to your standards and how you want them to make them superior humans or make them the better breed of humans. And but it isn't a very high likelihood of that being a problem, because if we look in the human section of this graph, we can see that to cure diseases and to help in mutations or any of sort of that thing, the risk level is only moderate. But if you want to add in desired traits, that can be a very high level risk act, because it can be dangerous to the person and have unwanted future outcomes, which with curing diseases, that's not the risk. And so my solution to this is to allow the use of CRISPR and to keep it in the hands of only medical professionals, because if it is in their hands, then they know how they're using it, and it can't be misused, but only used to benefit people. And it's to advance CRISPR to target diseases, which again, more properly helps target the issues that people are facing. But the limitations to this, of course, is to use it only to the disease, and to not allow designer babies, which would break the social level of our society, and don't fall into playing God, which again, it's to bring it to too much of a high extent. And then then the conclusion being that CRISPR opens up a gateway to many medical opportunities. If taken advantage of, CRISPR will allow for many diseases to be healed, such as HIV/AIDS, cancer, Alzheimer's, and many other severe disabilities which people do sadly die of. And CRISPR is morally correct for that reason, because if it's only used for the ill, it's only helping them and it's saving their lives. And it would be unjust to those who are ill to prevent them from using a possible curable technology for their life. And if we just keep it under the appropriate supervision, it can be without any moral danger. And without CRISPR, an infinite amount of lives would be lost, with more and more people falling victim to this every day.
All right, 2 questions for you. First up, how did your research question evolve as you kind of worked your way through this whole process?
So when I started doing my research, it was only on illnesses, but then as I looked through with my research, I saw that a lot of disabilities and a lot of other more severe diseases, which wouldn't just fall under the category of being ill, that they began to become more prominent.
Right, and if you had more, if you could give advice to someone who wanted to do this in the future, what would you give to them?
Because for this topic, they would need to make sure that they're looking at the credible sources and what they're looking at really did happen, because through my findings, there were a lot of studies which were factually incorrect, as they showed different parts of CRISPR which weren't actually how it worked.